evening, dear esteemed guests and subscribers. This is, of course, your number one crypto philosopher, Light Liger here, and today we are going to be talking about the consensus model known as proof of capacity and comparing it to proof of work and proof of stake and kind of figuring out what exactly is the best consensus model for everyone and what type of models we may see in the future. But let's get started, and I'm using Google Sheets now here, which is basically a fork out of a PowerPoint, so I can show you these slides and then kind of explain what's going on. So hopefully you like this presentation model. So first of all, we have proof of capacity, the future solution for more fair distribution of coins and tokens. And that is put there as a question mark. Proof of capacity also is known as proof of storage or proof of space. I like the proof of capacity term due to the fact that it's POC, and if it would be proof of storage or space, it would also share the initials POS, which already proof of stake has and has established. So it would be a bit confusing. So that's why I'm kind of like hoping that people would use proof of capacity or something else which doesn't share the same initials as proof of stake. Now, first I want to kind of go through over proof of work and the proof of stake, which are the most popular models as of right now, and what exactly is wrong with them. So a couple of days ago, I already did a video where we kind of explored the truth of Bitcoin, Elon, and everything like that. And in that video, I already explained a lot of what's wrong with proof of work, where pretty much all the major ASIC manufacturers are from China. The hashing power is also extremely centralized. So there's a lot of issues in terms of proof of work and the accessibility of the mining equipment, which is kind of like making it a bit of a, plutocratic system where people who have money can basically mine, everybody else get fucked. But let's kind of look into one of the things I didn't talk about in that video, which is basically the regional differences between electricity costs of proof of work. So this is one of the big issues. Now, I've said already in the past, I'm a bit of a climate nihilist. I don't really care about what's going to be happening to the climate itself. So I'm not really interested in like making the world more greener. I mean, I don't have anything against that. I'm like okay to basically install solar panels to my house in case they're going to be a more affordable option and something that actually works. But, putting that aside, when you look at this map or this chart right now, you can definitely see there's a concentration where red means the most highest expenses on electricity cost. And you can see the electricity cost is the highest in Europe. So it does have a clear regional difference here on every other region in the world where Europe has the highest amount of electricity cost out of all of these countries. And I think most of electricity that is done on Europe is nuclear and, well, I don't think we use a lot of wind and solar. I know in Denmark and in Netherlands they use a bit of solar and wind, but it's probably a lot of nuclear. While in certain countries you have hydropower like in China, and I know Canada has a lot of it too. But you can clearly see here on the chart that Chinese have a clear advantage here. Middle East has a clear advantage here. They'll have a lot of solar power there. So these people are able to access the electricity cost of mining a lot more easier. Iran is one of the biggest countries right now also on the mining front, and so is Russia. So you can definitely see, and I bet a lot of these Eastern Europe bloc countries also have relatively high electricity costs. So I bet they are on the yellow region. So you can definitely see that when we're going to be having this sort of a system which is called the proof of work, the electricity costs are going to be advantageous for certain types of regions, which means the centralization will happen to those countries which have cheaper electricity, because the cost of acquisitioning a Bitcoin or any other proof of work coin will be cheaper in those countries, which means the tax money and the equipment and everything, you know what I'm saying, will go there. Now here's also like even on a country level in America, you can see that if you're going to be mining in Texas or New Mexico, it's going to be significantly cheaper to have a mining operation there versus in Alaska or Canada or in the East Coast. And obviously these are highly concentrated areas, and I don't think they have anything like specific in terms of generating electricity. I know there's in New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas. I think they have like those big Tesla solar panels, for instance. Alaska, very cold place. I don't know if can they even use wind power there. So there are a lot of, key differences between areas where people are able to access electricity on a much more cheaper scale. But let's move on with this electricity now into proof of stake. Now, proof of stake also has problems. And number one, obviously, is the first mover's advantage. So there's usually some type of a pre-mine or initial sale where people accumulate a big amount of that coin and then they stake it. And usually in a lot of these staking coins, you have basically, at least in the first tier proof of stake coins that came out, the higher amount of POS coins you have, the higher your stake rewards will be. So there's an inherent like a build up on the proof of stake system, which kind of favors the people who have more money. And as you can see, kind of like all the money is flowing into the cash of one person or the whales, which creates, more wealth. So, and the other problem is proof of stake it's just kind of like created out of thin air. Yes, there's technology behind it, but there's nothing like of an effort. You just press a button and you just minted 1 billion coins. And I think because of that, there's also a bit of a problem like determining what is the value of the coins because of that. Should there be an actual effort to put value into something like art? Can there be a value to something that took a very low effort of a painting to make versus something that took 5 hours to make? You know what I'm saying? But art is obviously subjective and so are the prices. But that's something that proof of work has done and figured out very good, where the price of the coin is somewhat tied into the electricity prices and the equipment prices. But this gets into our next point, which is a bit of a brief history of these consensus models and how does everything work. So the first thing we obviously had here was the creation of proof of work. And then down the line, we had ASIC resistant, which is still proof of work, but it's basically there to algorithm, which is against the ASIC machines. We already talked about ASIC machines on that previous video to a greater extent. And I do believe in ASIC resistance quite a lot because it kind of furthers out decentralization, but it still is not exactly like a great solution for that. And then we have like simulated mining, that's like MineP, and Electroneum had it kind of, which means that there's not actual mining, but it's like, app that you have on and you have to check into that app and it's like simulating you mining blocks basically. And that's also kind of like sort of a proof of stake, but you're not actually staking, you're just getting rewards on a periodical basis, which I think we're going to be seeing a lot more simulated mining solutions in the future as well. And then we obviously have hybrid proof of work and proof of stake. There's being a lot of coins like that. Can't really say there's been many successful ones out of those. And then there's obviously masternodes, with Dash kind of becoming the biggest masternode, which is masternode / proof of work. And masternodes are also this sort of a rich get richer type of a scheme. Kind of similar to proof of stake, but a bit of a different because the amounts are actually locked. So there is a slight difference, and usually they are set rewards, but it's a variation of proof of stake. Then the current more popular coins are using delegated proof of stake, which means that there are usually like 20 to 50 delegates, which are basically people delegate their crypto to, and they make the rewards, and then they distribute portion of those rewards, sometimes 100%, into the users who delegated to them. And this is what Tron is using, EOS, Cardano, TomoChain. And TomoChain and Cardano have made systems where there can be only a certain amount of coins delegated into each delegate, which kind of creates a more of a decentralized aspect, which is pretty good, by the way, for decentralization cost for DPoS. But DPoS also suffers from the same problem where the delegates can become very stagnant, and once again, it can become a Chinese oligarchy where people who just get in first and buy those DPoS spots or exchanges just vote themselves in and get all the rewards. So there are, certain issues. And then we have leased proof of stake like Waves or previously Nix as well. And it's pretty much the same as delegated proof of stake, but usually in leased proof of stake, anybody can become a delegate. And sometimes you don't actually lock your funds. Then we have DAG, which is basically Nano, IOTA, Banano, and DAG is not exactly like a blockchain. It works a bit differently, where everybody basically holds the blockchain in totality in their wallet, and that has allowed basically higher TPS, but it doesn't work exactly, and it doesn't have the same amount of security as proof of stake and proof of work has, to be honest, but it's an interesting technology. And most of the time in DAG, the distribution is like they mint all the tokens at once, and then they like have done like sales or faucets. It's been a bit different with each case, but it's still kind of like a first come, first serve service, in my opinion. Then out of proof of stake, there was a lot of variations like proof of authority and believability. So POA, and also we have, I think it's called IOST, which are basically kind of similar to proof of stake, but nodes that have like a good track record, like high uptime, or what other metrics they have, like orphan blocks and stuff like that, have a higher, basically a hierarchy in the chain, and basically get more rewards, or more often rewards, because these have a higher reputation among the nodes on the blockchain, which is also an important, interesting dynamic, but it's still a variation of proof of stake. And then we have proof of importance, which is NEM, which is differing from proof of stake in the sense that basically your activity also is measured. So when you move your money you send maybe a NEM into an exchange, that will be also measured in your rewards, basically. So how active you are on the ecosystem, not just sitting on your stacks, will have an impact on your rewards. So that's also an interesting model. Which also may lead into more decentralization, but there's obviously loopholes behind that to rig that system. And then we obviously have proof of capacity, also known as storage. Then we have proof of space-time, which Filecoin basically uses. And now we can finally, these are the four major, different chains which have done variations. And in future we might see more, but these are the most dominant. POS and proof of work, most popular. Then comes DAC and proof of capacity. They are not very big. They're not very popular, but obviously IOTA and Nano are both top 100 coins. So, but there's no Filecoin is basically there in capacity. But let's move on. So the first proof of capacity coin was done in 2014, and that was Burst Coin. Now, we talked about the ASIC machines, how they are all produced in China. They're very expensive. They artificially increase GPU and CPU prices for gamers and everybody who uses for video rendering like I do, or gaming. So it's not like this great idea in that sense when you have hardware and then you're artificially rising the prices because of the mining for people who don't buy these machines for mining, if you know what I'm saying. So one of the benefits of proof of capacity is there's more inherent decentralization, where like Fujitsu or Toshiba, these are Japanese companies. Then you have HP, which is an American company, Korean company, Samsung, Western Digital, probably American too. And then I know Seagate is produced in Thailand. So the production of different types of hard drive machines is rather decentralized. There are a lot more players in this space. I believe doing storage is much more easier than GPUs and CPUs, and a lot more different utilities altogether. So it's a lot more decentralized when it comes to production. And obviously GPUs are a lot more cheaper as well. So here you can see a chart of the cost of SSDs and terabyte cost per dollar. So you can see in 2013 it was pretty insane price, but it has basically gone 40x lower in quarter one of 2020, and that is a very positive sign. While as GPUs and CPUs have kind of, especially now, I had to buy a really high price NVIDIA video card because the mining stuff is going on, so they have hiked up the prices, and there has been an out of stock moment for a lot of these things. But HDDs are they are seeing this huge benefit of this price actually going down. Here's the Thailand flood which happened in 2011 when the price went kind of up for a year or two, and then it's kind of started to go downtrend again. So there has been a clear decline in the price, and I don't think the necessary requirements for proof of capacity systems would like scale up on the other section, that the needs would be from today's rates would be going up 10x in the next 5 years or something. I don't believe that. So and this kind of goes into our like actual problem here, which is let's go a bit back here. So to kind of like summarize here, proof of capacity devices, which are hard drives, are much more accessible, cheaper, and decentralized versus the proof of work alternatives. And there's an investment angle to there versus the proof of stake, which doesn't actually have any. It's kind of like created out of thin air. And also that capacity, these things can be actually utilized for something that will be used, like there can be a storage there. A lot of other people have done that. So the actual mining process, like when in proof of work, it does nothing except do the things. The hashing doesn't actually go for anything useful. So in this one, you're kind of like doing, two strikes on a one. You're doing something that will have a utility, and also you'll be mining coin at the same time with a low electricity cost. So that's another angle which I haven't talked about, that using hard drives, the electricity cost is like, 1 out of 50 or something like that. So 50 times less electricity cost. Somebody can bring out the real numbers in case they know. And by the way, if there are some proof of capacity developers watching this video, I would love to interview one of those projects involved. But let's get into the negative sides. So the sad thing is, I personally believe that the proof of capacity is the most fairest model and the most sensible mining model. But the inherent problems is that all of these proof of stake coins have actually very, very high investment in order to get into the actual mining performance. So you need first of all, a lot of RAM for Filecoin. I think the whole investment, if I don't remember wrong, actually $15,000 for the pure equipment for the Filecoin, and that is minus the bandwidth requirements and everything. So Filecoin does require significant investment before you can actually start mining Filecoin itself, which makes it really inaccessible project. And that's why I've been really against it, buying it at Ncenter, because these requirements here are pretty insane in my opinion. Now, then we have Chia, which just came out. This is another really big project, which kind of prompted me to do this video. This is from the creator of BitTorrent, who created the BitTorrent protocol. And they also have, if you want, 100 gigs, basically the 1.25 thousand, over $1,000 investment cost to get that base hardware for the lowest minimum to start mining on Chia. And that's also no, I don't think this is very inclusive. And I think the investment to get mining should be $50. And we talk about the mobile mining in a second. I'm going to show you another example here. We have storage, and basically this one doesn't have really that high requirements compared to the other two. I mean, terabytes available of bandwidth a month. That's a lot of bandwidth that you have to do. And in Chia, by the way, you need to have 60 days the device running or something before you get rewards. And if you have a moment that the internet cuts within that 60 days, no money, no funny. So yeah, there is keep your node here once again 24/7. There might be outages in the neighborhood or the internet, for 5 minutes, but that 5 minutes can basically cut your paycheck. So these are fundamental issues where I see kind of the download and the upstreams are not very high. These are probably my current ones. Actually, I have 100 megabytes and 10 maybe for upload. So these are not really bad. I basically could probably do this investment. That wouldn't be probably too much. I want to say $250 perhaps. I don't know what that processor cores have to be in line for storage, but yeah, pretty high. And this gets into my final point here, where we're kind of finishing off, is there has to be, in order for proof of capacity to be the next thing, it has to be literally something you can mine on your phone. And you need 50 gigs, and you just download the app, you push the button, and it starts to mine. And nothing a regular phone costing $100 to $200,
and you can mine with it. That's the requirement that proof of capacity has to be at in order to be the world's next model. But as we saw with the current statistics, these are very inaccessible for people in Africa and etc. And so is proof of work, obviously, but I think the best model could be the proof of capacity because it would require a bit of an investment. And if it gets at some point, maybe in 10 years or 5 years, there will be a coin which will be having some type of a pooled mining where I can just join in with my phone and have maybe 100 gigs on the phone. And there's 1 terabyte phones as well. And then I can join and start mining from the get-go. But right now it's not there. As a final point, I also want to talk about proof of bandwidth, which is internet speed. And I think there was one project like iTor or something like that, but that didn't turn out to be really good. But I think in future, we're probably going to be seeing somewhere a model which is going to be using a bandwidth to basically mine with. And there's already like fiat systems like that. A couple of crypto ones we have done an individual video. I'm going to link that in the corner in case you're interested. But I think proof of bandwidth is also very exciting because it's something that basically almost anybody can access. There's a bit of a cost of acquiring an internet, but the problem with proof of bandwidth would be that it wouldn't stop like these major internet companies who provide that bandwidth to start mining themselves, which could lead into massive centralization issues. But it's something also which I would be very excited in the future. So my closing thoughts here is that I see a lot of potential with proof of capacity in the future if it will be able to be mined very simply with a phone, and the requirements wouldn't be like having, a processor and 5 terabytes of this and that and not $1,000 of investment. That's what I'm saying. And it could be the winning model. I think it would be the fairest model for everyone. Because proof of stake, as we kind of said, is kind of like, who come first and then they start staking and then they accumulate the wealth and become whales and everybody gets in last where the rewards are lower. And yeah, it's not the same thing. So that's kind of my take on here. In case you like the video, well, push the like button, subscribe, and I will be seeing you guys on a next video. Perhaps we will dedicate a video to proof of bandwidth theorizing in the future, but hopefully you would be learning something here from today's video and etc. But I'm going to be bidding you a farewell. Thanks for watching. See you soon.